The story begins in the heart of a dark, grim alien marketplace. This is a place where beings of all kinds are sold like animals, their lives controlled by cruel alien traders. Among them stands a young alien woman, shackled and bruised, her spirit nearly broken. For years, she has been treated like dirt, forced into servitude by an empire that sees her as nothing more than property. She is watched closely by the slavers, who laugh as they discuss how much profit they can make off her. Despite her pain, there is something in her eyes, a flicker of defiance that refuses to die. In the crowd, a human enters. He doesn't fit in with the others. While the alien traders are busy with their cruel negotiations, the human quietly approaches the auction. He is tall, confident, and his eyes are sharp with purpose. The traders laugh at him, thinking he's just another fool who doesn't understand the value of the slaves. They mock him, but he remains calm. With a quiet but firm voice, he places a bid, one that makes the traders hesitate. The alien woman watches in disbelief as the human's offer is accepted. She wonders who he is and why he's there. Has he come to buy her, only to treat her like the others? Or could he be different? She's filled with doubt, but there's a tiny spark of hope that she hasn't felt in years. For the first time, someone is treating her like she's worth something. As the human approaches, the chains that once bound her are removed. She's free, but unsure of what comes next. The human leads her away from the marketplace. She's still wary, unsure if she's walking into another trap. But as they move through the crowded streets, she notices the difference. The human isn't like the others. He speaks kindly, offering her food and water, and though she doesn't trust easily, she begins to feel a small measure of safety around him. He's not forcing her, not treating her like an object. She doesn't know it yet, but her life is about to change forever. As they leave the planet behind and board the human ship, the alien woman sees the futuristic technology that surrounds her. The ship is like nothing she's ever seen before, smooth, sleek, and capable of moving faster than any ship in the galaxy. As they travel, the human explains some of the technology to her, cloaking devices that make the ship invisible, robots that help with repairs, and an advanced AI that keeps them safe during the journey. She's both fascinated and overwhelmed by the complexity of it all. But the journey is far from peaceful. As the human ship enters deep space, an alarm blares. The alien empire has found them. The slavers had alerted their superiors, and now a powerful alien warship is hunting them down. The human doesn't panic. He acts quickly, engaging the cloaking device to avoid detection. Yet, the enemy ship is relentless, firing powerful blasts in an attempt to destroy them. The human and the alien woman exchange tense looks as the ship shakes under the force of the attacks. She has never felt so vulnerable. The alien woman can feel the fear rising within her, but the human remains calm, maneuvering the ship with expert precision. She watches in awe as he uses his knowledge of space warfare to outmaneuver the larger, more powerful warship. The alien forces are relentless, but the human ship is faster and more agile. Just as the enemy ship locks onto them, the human activates a hidden weapon, an EMP pulse that disables the alien warship's weapons and shields. It's a risky move, but it works. They've escaped, but only just. As they catch their breath, the alien woman starts to understand just how much the human is risking for her. She has never known such sacrifice. It's in this moment that she begins to trust him, realizing that he is not just her savior, but someone who truly cares about her freedom. The bond between them grows, and as they continue their journey, she begins to feel something she never thought she would again, hope. Days pass, and the two of them grow closer. The human teaches her how to defend herself, showing her how to use weapons and how to navigate the stars. She learns about human history, the wars they've fought, and the sacrifices they've made to protect their freedoms. She's amazed by their resilience and determination. Slowly, the pain of her past begins to fade, replaced by the possibility of a future she never thought was possible. However, their peace is short-lived. The alien empire is not willing to give up so easily. They send wave after wave of advanced soldiers and drones to destroy the human ship and recapture the alien woman. But this time, she's not just a helpless captive. With the human by her side, she fights back. Together, they fend off the first wave of enemies, using their combined strength and the human's superior technology to turn the tide of battle. In one heart-stopping moment, an enemy soldier gets too close, and the alien woman is forced to use the skills she's learned from the human. She kills the soldier, her first kill, and though it's a brutal act, she feels no regret. The human is proud of her, and together, they continue to fight through the chaos. The action is fast and furious, with lasers flying and explosions shaking the ship. The battle feels endless, but they're not backing down. Finally, after a long, grueling fight, the human and the alien woman lead the final charge against the alien empire. The warships of the empire fall one by one, and the AI system that controls the empire's military is destroyed. With the death of the warlord who ruled over her, the alien woman feels something she's never felt before: freedom. The chains of her past are broken forever. The story concludes with the two of them standing together on the edge of a new world, victorious. The human looks at her with pride, and she looks at him with gratitude and love. The alien woman is no longer just a captive, she is a free being, ready to face whatever the future holds. She knows that with the human by her side, she is no longer alone. Together, they will fight for the freedom of others, and their journey is just beginning. The ending leaves the audience with a sense of triumph, knowing that the struggle of the underdog, the human and the alien woman, has led to a powerful victory. Their bond is unbreakable, and the galaxy will never be the same again. The alien marketplace was a place of desperation. It was the type of place where souls were sold like livestock, where traders bargained for lives with no concern for dignity or worth. The young alien woman stood in the middle of this chaos, shackled, bruised, and surrounded by cold, calculating eyes. She had been sold and bought countless times, treated as nothing more than a commodity. Each time, it had been the same: pain, abuse, and neglect. Yet, in the depths of her despair, a flicker of hope remained. As she stood there, head bowed in submission, she heard something different. A voice, calm and unwavering, cut through the noise of the marketplace. She glanced up. A human had stepped forward, his eyes not filled with greed but with something else: determination. She didn't know who he was or why he was there, but something about him made her feel like there was more to life than this cold existence. The traders around her barely noticed the human. They were too busy shouting bids and mocking the other buyers. They had no interest in a human, especially one who seemed so out of place in this alien world. The human's appearance stood in stark contrast to the grim environment. He was tall and strong, his presence commanding attention. The alien traders barely spared him a glance, dismissing him as someone who didn't understand their world. They saw him as no threat, just another fool who would leave empty-handed. But the human didn't back down. He stepped forward with purpose, his eyes locked on the alien woman. The traders laughed as he placed his first bid. It was low, far lower than the other offers, but there was something in his voice that silenced their laughter. The alien woman's heart skipped a beat. Could this human actually want her? Was it possible that someone could see her as more than just an object to be bought and sold? The traders sneered, assuming the human was merely making a foolish attempt. One of them, a tall reptilian creature, spoke up, "You must be joking. A human with no resources, no power. What would you possibly offer?" The others laughed again, but the human remained silent. He didn't argue or try to prove anything. He simply raised his hand, making a second offer. This time, it was more substantial. The traders stopped laughing, their eyes narrowing. They knew this was no ordinary human. The offer was enough to draw the attention of the leader of the slavers. As the offer was accepted, the alien woman felt a mix of disbelief and confusion. The chains that had bound her for so long were unlocked. She felt the weight of them lift, and for the first time in years, she stood without the shackles that had defined her existence. It was a strange sensation, freedom, but it didn't feel real. She still didn't trust the human. Why had he bought her? What did he want from her? Her mind raced with questions, but she couldn't shake the tiny spark of hope that had ignited deep within her. The human didn't say much as they left the marketplace, walking through the dusty streets of the alien city. He was calm and steady, as if he had done this many times before. The alien woman was wary, unsure whether she should feel safe or not. She had learned long ago not to trust anyone, especially humans. They were known for their weakness, and yet this one had offered her a chance at something she had thought was impossible, freedom. They boarded a sleek, futuristic ship that was waiting for them. The moment they stepped inside, she was struck by the difference between the ship and the harsh world she had just left behind. The interior was smooth and clean, filled with advanced technology that she could barely comprehend. The human's ship was nothing like the crude vessels used by the slavers. It was a marvel of human engineering, sleek and capable of feats that the alien ships could only dream of. She could feel the hum of the ship's engines as it lifted off from the planet's surface, heading into the vastness of space. As the ship moved deeper into the stars, the human explained the ship's systems to her. "This is a cloaking device," he said, pointing to a small control panel. "It allows us to become invisible to enemy ships." The alien woman's eyes widened in wonder. She had never seen technology like this before. The human continued, showing her the onboard AI that controlled the ship's navigation, and the robots that helped with maintenance. It was like something out of a dream. But her wonder didn't last long. An alarm suddenly blared, breaking the peaceful silence that had filled the ship. The human's calm demeanor didn't waver. He immediately activated the cloaking device, sending the ship into stealth mode. It was too late. The alien empire had found them. A massive alien warship appeared on their radar, and the human's ship was too small and too vulnerable to escape on its own. The human's voice was steady as he spoke, "Get ready. We're going to need to fight." The alien woman felt a lump form in her throat. She had never fought before. She had only been a tool, used and discarded by others. But the human wasn't giving her a choice. He was trusting her, and somehow, she felt a strange sense of responsibility to help him. The battle was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The warship fired powerful blasts at the human ship, shaking them with each impact. The ship's advanced systems allowed them to dodge many of the attacks, but not all. The alien woman could feel the tension rise as the enemy closed in. Her heart raced in fear, but the human remained calm, focused on the task at hand. She watched as he expertly piloted the ship, avoiding the enemy's blasts with skill and precision. The human was outmatched, but he wasn't giving up. The alien woman couldn't help but be amazed. She had never seen anyone fight with such determination. For the first time in her life, she felt like there was someone fighting for her, someone who believed in her. The battle raged on, but despite the odds, the human managed to outmaneuver the larger warship. As they turned the tables on their enemies, the alien woman realized something: she wasn't powerless anymore. She wasn't just a slave. She was part of something bigger now, and that was all thanks to the human who had offered her a chance at freedom. As the enemy ship retreated, the human turned to her and smiled. She had never seen such a smile before, one full of pride and warmth. It was a smile that told her that, despite everything, they were going to make it. They were going to survive, together. The human's offer wasn't just about buying her freedom. It was about giving her a chance to live. And for the first time, the alien woman believed that maybe, just maybe, there was hope for her after all. The stars outside the ship glimmered like 1,000 diamonds, yet the alien woman couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. The human had saved her from the brutal marketplace, fought off a warship, and even trusted her in battle. But something still gnawed at her, a sense that this wasn't just a simple act of kindness. There was more to him than he had let on. She had been trained to be suspicious, always questioning others' motives, and the human's actions only made her more curious. What did he truly want from her? As the ship glided through the galaxy, she spent more time observing him. The human was not like the others she had encountered in her life. He wasn't selfish, nor was he cruel. He didn't see her as just a prisoner or a tool. He treated her with respect, like a partner, even though she didn't fully understand what that meant. Despite the trust he had shown in her, she could still feel the weight of her past. It was hard to let go of the memories of being chained, beaten, and discarded. It was hard to believe that someone could truly want to help her, and not just use her for their own purposes. But as the days passed, something strange began to happen. She started to feel a bond with the human, an unspoken connection that she hadn't felt with anyone else before. He was kind, but not weak. He was strong, but not unfeeling. He showed her a different side of humanity, one that was capable of compassion, bravery, and sacrifice. She had always been taught to fear humans, to see them as weak and insignificant compared to the advanced alien species. But the human was changing her view, bit by bit. One day, as they traveled deeper into space, the human led her to the ship's control room. It was a sleek and high-tech area, filled with glowing panels and holographic screens. She had never seen anything like it before. "I need to show you something," he said, his voice serious. She followed him, her curiosity piqued. The human pressed a button, and a large holographic map of the galaxy appeared in front of them. The galaxy was vast, and scattered across it were multiple star systems, some marked in red, others in green. "This is where we are," the human said, pointing to a small star system in the map's corner. "But this is where we need to go." He zoomed in on another system, one that was much farther from their current position. "I've been tracking something, an alliance," he continued. "It's a group of humans, like me. They're scattered across the galaxy, living in hiding, but they've managed to stay out of the reach of the alien empires. I'm trying to find them, and when I do, we'll join forces." The alien woman frowned, trying to understand. "An alliance of humans? But why? What do you need them for?" she asked, her voice tinged with doubt. She had always heard that humans were weak, disorganized, and incapable of working together. The idea of a hidden alliance seemed far-fetched to her. The human turned to her, his expression hardening with determination. "We need them because we're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to change the galaxy." He looked back at the map, his eyes scanning the data. The alien empires have been oppressing the weaker species for centuries. They've used their advanced technology to crush anyone who stands in their way. But the humans, we've always fought back. And now, we have a chance to take them down. The alien woman didn't know what to think. She had lived her life under the thumb of the alien empires, always fearing their power and control. She had never considered that someone might actually have the power to overthrow them. And yet, something in the human's words resonated with her. She had seen the human fight, had seen him take down a warship with nothing but his wits and skill. Perhaps, just perhaps, the humans were stronger than she had ever given them credit for. "I want to help," she said quietly, surprising herself. The human glanced at her, his eyes softening. "You're already helping," he replied. "Your strength, your courage, it's what makes all of this possible." It was a small step, but it meant everything. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't alone. She wasn't just a slave being dragged from one place to another. She was part of something greater, a mission to change the galaxy. The weight of the chains that had once bound her felt a little lighter, and the spark of hope inside her began to grow. The human didn't waste any time. He immediately set course for the hidden alliance, knowing that they had to act quickly. They couldn't afford to be discovered by the alien empires. The journey ahead was long, and the dangers were many, but the human's resolve never faltered. He had a plan, and he was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. As the ship traveled through uncharted space, the alien woman trained under the human's guidance. She learned how to use the ship's advanced weapons systems, how to fight with new tactics, and how to survive in the harshest environments. She wasn't just learning for herself, she was learning for the fight that lay ahead. Every day brought new challenges, and she faced each one with more confidence. She began to understand that the human wasn't just a leader, he was a symbol of everything humanity stood for: strength, resilience, and the belief that no matter the odds, they could make a difference. Their journey wasn't without its challenges. They had to avoid the detection of alien patrols, navigate through dangerous asteroid fields, and outrun bounty hunters who were hired by the alien empires to track them down. The closer they got to the Hidden Alliance, the more perilous their mission became. But the humans' calm demeanor and the alien woman's growing skills kept them moving forward. They finally arrived at the coordinates, and what they found was beyond anything the alien woman could have imagined. The Hidden Alliance wasn't just a small group of rebels, it was a well-organized network of humans spread across various sectors of the galaxy. They had weapons, ships, and technology that rivaled the alien empires. They had been preparing for this moment for years, and now, with the alien woman by their side, they were ready to strike. The human turned to her, his eyes full of pride. "This is just the beginning. Together, we can take back what was stolen from us. Together, we can bring an end to the Empire's reign." The alien woman nodded, her heart swelling with a sense of purpose. She wasn't just fighting for her own freedom anymore. She was fighting for something greater, for a chance to change the galaxy, to ensure that no one else would have to suffer the way she had. And with the humans by her side, she knew that victory was possible. Together, they would rise up against the alien empires, and nothing could stop them. The ship hummed with power as it cut through the endless void of space, the stars outside twinkling like distant promises of a future they had yet to reach. The alien woman stood beside the human, her eyes glued to the holomap in front of them. Every line, every dot on the map seemed to pulse with urgency, reminding them that they were running out of time. The journey to the Hidden Alliance had been long, and they had barely escaped the clutches of the alien empires. The closer they got, the more dangerous their path became. Every alien warship, every bounty hunter, and every patrol that scoured the galaxy was now aware of their existence. Their every move was being watched. The silence between them was filled with the weight of that knowledge. The alien woman felt the pressure building, the fear of being caught gnawing at her thoughts. She had lived her life under the constant threat of death, but now, it was different. This time, they were fighting back. The human glanced at her, noticing the tension in her posture. He knew she was struggling with the fear that had haunted her for so long. The fear of being caught, the fear of being treated like nothing more than a tool again. "We're not alone in this," he said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "We're stronger now. And I won't let anything happen to you." She nodded, grateful for his words but still uncertain. She had learned to rely on herself, to trust no one but herself. But this was different. The human was offering her a chance to be part of something greater. A chance to fight back against the oppression that had defined her life. But the road ahead was fraught with danger, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. As the ship sped through the galaxy, the first signs of trouble appeared. A warning light flashed on the console, followed by an urgent message from the ship's AI. "Incoming enemy warships detected. They are closing in fast." The alien woman's heart skipped a beat. The warships were from the alien empires, she recognized the insignia. They had been tracking them, waiting for the right moment to strike. There was no time to waste. The human's hand flew over the controls, his face set in a determined grimace. "Hold on," he muttered. The ship lurched forward as he punched the accelerator, pushing the craft to its limits. The alien woman gripped the sides of her seat, her heart pounding in her chest. Outside the ship, the vast emptiness of space became a blur as the human expertly navigated the ship, weaving through asteroid fields and evading the incoming warships. The enemy was closing in fast, but the human was faster. His movements were smooth, calculated, and precise. Every time the enemy fired, he was already a step ahead, evading their blasts with remarkable agility. She watched in awe as the human made split-second decisions, his focus unwavering as he dodged missiles and returned fire with precision. The ship's weapon systems were advanced, but it was the human skill that made all the difference. He was more than just a pilot, he was a warrior, a survivor, and she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of admiration for him. But even with the human skill and quick thinking, the situation was becoming increasingly dire. The enemy warships had surrounded them, closing in from all sides. The alien woman knew they couldn't keep outrunning them forever. They needed a plan, and fast. "Get us closer to that moon," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. The human glanced at her, raising an eyebrow. "You sure?" he asked. "It's a trap." "I know," she replied. "But we don't have a choice. We can use the moon's surface to hide. The enemy won't be able to track us in the asteroid field. We'll have a better chance to fight back." The human nodded, trusting her instincts. He guided the ship toward the moon, skillfully dodging enemy fire as they descended toward its surface. The enemy warships followed them, unwilling to let their prey escape. As they neared the moon, the human executed a daring maneuver, flipping the ship sideways to avoid a direct hit from a missile. The ship rocked violently, but the human kept his cool, his hands steady on the controls. They landed on the moon's surface with a loud thud, the ship's engines humming as they powered down. The moon was barren, its surface rocky and desolate, but it offered them a temporary refuge. The alien woman unstrapped herself from her seat, her mind racing with the next steps. She couldn't afford to waste any time. They needed to prepare for the battle that was sure to come. "Get to the weapons room," the human said. "I'll keep an eye on the sensors. We're not out of the woods yet." The alien woman nodded and sprinted toward the back of the ship, where the weapons were stored. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a room filled with advanced weaponry. She quickly grabbed a plasma rifle, her fingers trembling slightly as she checked the power levels. She had never fought with such high-tech weapons before, but she was no stranger to battle. The human had taught her how to use the ship's weapon systems, but this was different. This was a fight for survival. She loaded the rifle and returned to the control room, where the human was already scanning the incoming threat. His eyes flicked over the sensors, and his face hardened. "They're coming," he said, his voice low. "We won't be able to take them all on, but we can slow them down. We'll need to fight smart." The alien woman nodded, her grip tightening on the rifle. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready to fight. She had fought for her life before, and she would fight for it again. This time, she wasn't alone. The human was by her side, and together, they would make their stand. As the enemy warships landed on the moon's surface, the human and the alien woman took their positions. The first wave of enemies came into view, their weapons drawn, their faces full of malice. The battle for survival had begun. The alien woman didn't hesitate. She fired first, her plasma rifle blasting a hole through the first enemy soldier. The human followed suit, taking down another with a well-placed shot. The two of them worked in perfect synchronization, moving quickly, covering each other's backs, and taking down enemies one by one. But the fight was far from over. The enemy forces were relentless, and with each passing minute, the odds seemed to stack higher against them. But the alien woman had something she had never had before, hope. With the human by her side, she felt unstoppable. This fight wasn't just about survival, it was about something more. It was about freedom, and nothing could stand in their way. The battle raged on, and the alien woman and the human were caught in the heart of it. The air was thick with the sounds of plasma blasts, the ground shaking with each explosion. The once desolate moon now felt like a war zone. With every second, the enemy seemed to grow stronger, more relentless. The alien woman could feel the weight of the battle pressing down on her, but she refused to back down. Not now. Not when they were so close to victory. Beside her, the human moved like a shadow, his every action calculated, each step in perfect synchronization with hers. They had become an unstoppable force together. For the first time in her life, the alien woman felt like she wasn't fighting alone. She wasn't just a tool to be used, but a partner. The human had given her that chance, and she wasn't going to waste it. But even with their strength combined, the battle was far from over. The enemy was regrouping, launching wave after wave of attack, and the odds were stacking higher and higher. The alien woman's heart raced as she ducked behind a rock for cover, her breath shallow from the strain. She peeked over the edge, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the approaching enemy. Her pulse quickened when she saw the first wave of alien soldiers marching toward them, their weapons raised. "Stay sharp," the human said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "We can't afford to let them take the high ground." The alien woman nodded, tightening her grip on the rifle. She could hear the sound of enemy footsteps growing louder as they neared. The air was thick with tension, and every second felt like an eternity. The human glanced at her, his eyes scanning the terrain around them. He was calculating their next move, thinking several steps ahead. "We need to create a distraction," he said, his voice low. "I'll take the left flank, you cover me from here." Without waiting for her response, the human moved swiftly, slipping into the shadows and disappearing into the rocky terrain. The alien woman took a deep breath, focusing on the task at hand. She crouched low, her eyes fixed on the approaching enemy, ready to strike at any moment. The first alien soldier appeared, and she didn't hesitate. She fired, taking him down with a single shot. The others scattered, trying to find cover, but she was already moving, her instincts guiding her every step. The battle was far from over, but every enemy they took down brought them closer to victory. The human was working his way around the left flank, his movements quick and silent. The alien woman could see him in her peripheral vision, his rifle raised as he picked off enemy soldiers one by one. The two of them were working in perfect harmony, each step calculated, each move bringing them closer to their goal. But just as they were starting to gain ground, something unexpected happened. A large explosion rocked the ground beneath them, sending a shockwave that knocked them both off their feet. The alien woman barely had time to react before she was thrown backward, her body slamming into the ground with a sickening thud. Pain shot through her body, but she gritted her teeth, forcing herself to push through it. She looked around, dazed, and saw the human on the ground as well, his body twisted in an unnatural way. Her heart skipped a beat. "No," she shouted, scrambling to her feet despite the pain. She rushed toward him, fear flooding her mind. She couldn't lose him, not now. He had given her everything. She couldn't let him die. When she reached him, she knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she checked for signs of life. He was still breathing, but barely. His face was pale, and his leg was twisted in an odd angle. The explosion had taken him by surprise, and now they were both in a dangerous position. The enemy was closing in fast, and they didn't have much time. "We need to move, now," she said, her voice shaking with urgency. She pulled the human into a sitting position, using all her strength to keep him upright. The pain in her own body was nothing compared to the fear of losing him. "I'm not leaving you," the human muttered, his voice weak but filled with determination. "We fight until the end." The alien woman shook her head. "You're not fighting anything right now. I'm getting you out of here." She grabbed his rifle, slinging it over her shoulder before she hoisted him up, trying to steady him on his feet. The enemy was closing in, but she wouldn't let them win. She wouldn't let them take him. The human had given her a chance to live, to fight for her freedom. Now it was her turn to save him. With the human leaning on her for support, they staggered toward a small cave in the distance. The alien woman's body ached with every step, but she refused to slow down. She could hear the enemy approaching, their footsteps echoing through the rocky terrain. There was no time to waste. They reached the cave just as the first wave of enemies appeared on the horizon. The alien woman quickly shoved the human inside, her heart racing as she scanned the area for any signs of danger. She took cover behind a boulder, trying to steady her breath. The enemy warships were circling above, their weapons aimed at the cave entrance. The alien woman knew they had to act fast. She couldn't let them find them. Suddenly, a bright flash of light illuminated the sky. The alien woman's heart stopped as she watched in awe. The light was coming from a nearby asteroid field, where a massive explosion had just occurred. The enemy ships began to panic, their communication systems going haywire. "What's happening?" the human asked, his voice weak but filled with curiosity. "They're distracted," the alien woman said, a glimmer of hope flashing in her eyes. "This is our chance." They had no idea who or what had caused the explosion, but it didn't matter. The distraction gave them the opportunity they needed to strike back. The enemy was momentarily off balance, and that was all the opening they needed. The alien woman and the human exchanged a glance. They didn't need to say anything, they both knew what had to be done. This was their turning point. They had fought for survival, but now they were ready to fight for victory. Together, they would face whatever came next. The battle was far from over, but they were stronger than ever. They weren't just fighting for their own lives anymore. They were fighting for each other. And that made all the difference. The war had reached its peak, and the final battle was about to unfold. The alien woman and the human had spent countless days fighting side by side, each one pushing their limits. But now, as the enemy closed in with their overwhelming forces, it was clear that this was the moment that would decide everything. There was no turning back. The human, though battered and bruised from their earlier encounter, stood tall beside her, his face hardened with resolve. He had been through so much, but he wasn't backing down now. Neither was she. Together, they had already defied impossible odds, and they were going to see this through to the end. Above them, the sky was filled with the roar of enemy ships, their weapons charging up, ready to strike. The alien woman gripped her rifle tightly, her eyes scanning the landscape around them. Every second felt like an eternity. The pressure of the battle, the weight of what they had to lose, hung heavily on her shoulders. But in that moment, something inside her clicked. She had fought for so long, not knowing her purpose, not knowing what it all meant. But now, with the human by her side, she knew. This battle, this moment, was her chance for redemption. "We have to hold them off, just a little longer," the human said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "If we can take down their command ship, the rest will fall." The alien woman nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She had seen how the human fought, how he never gave up, no matter the odds. He had given her a reason to fight, to believe that there was something worth living for. Now, it was her turn to repay that trust. Together, they would end this once and for all. They moved as one, their bodies in sync as they rushed toward the enemy lines. The alien woman could feel the adrenaline pumping through her veins, sharpening her senses. The roar of the enemy's ships overhead was deafening, but she tuned it out, focusing on the task at hand. She could hear the human's footsteps beside hers, steady and strong. His presence gave her strength. As they reached the front lines, the first wave of enemies appeared. Alien soldiers, their eyes cold and merciless, advanced toward them. Without hesitation, the alien woman opened fire. The blast of her rifle echoed through the air, and an enemy soldier fell, his body crumpling to the ground. The human was right beside her, his own rifle raised, picking off enemies with deadly precision. The two of them moved in perfect coordination, taking down enemy after enemy. It was a blur of motion, a dance of death as they fought their way through the oncoming waves. The alien woman could feel her heart racing as they pressed forward, each step bringing them closer to their goal. The human was her anchor, his calm and steady presence keeping her focused. He was the reason she was still fighting, the reason she hadn't given up. But despite their best efforts, the enemy forces seemed endless. More ships appeared in the sky, their weapons aimed at the ground. The enemy soldiers began to regroup, forming a line of defense. The odds were stacking against them, and for a moment, doubt crept into the alien woman's mind. Was this really the end? Had they come so far, only to fall short now? She glanced at the human, his face set in determination. There was no fear in his eyes, only resolve. He had been through so much, and he was still standing. If he could keep fighting, so could she. They couldn't stop now. "We're almost there," the human said, his voice low. "The command ship is just ahead. We take that down, and the rest will fall." The alien woman nodded, her grip on her weapon tightening. They had come this far, and she wasn't going to let them fail now. The command ship was their last chance, their final opportunity to strike at the heart of the enemy. They fought their way through the remaining forces, moving closer and closer to the command ship. Every step felt like a battle in itself, but they were unstoppable. Together, they had become a force of nature, a duo that no one could defeat. The alien woman's heart raced as they reached the base of the command ship, the towering structure looming overhead. "We're in position," the human said, his voice filled with urgency. "On my mark, we take out the power core." The alien woman took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. The fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. She could hear the hum of the enemy's weapons charging up, the sound growing louder with each passing second. They didn't have much time. The human nodded, his eyes locked on the command ship's power core. "Now," he shouted. In that instant, they both opened fire, their weapons hitting the target with pinpoint accuracy. The sound of the blasts was deafening, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, with a roar that shook the ground beneath their feet, the command ship exploded in a burst of light, its power core detonating in a spectacular display of energy. The shockwave from the explosion sent both of them tumbling to the ground. The alien woman's body slammed against the hard surface, but she barely felt it. She was too focused on the sight before her. The command ship was no more, and with it, the heart of the enemy's power had been destroyed. The remaining ships began to retreat, their forces scattering in panic. It was over. The alien woman lay on the ground, her body aching from the impact of the explosion. But she couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. They had done it. Together, they had won. The enemy was defeated, and the galaxy was free from their tyranny. The human staggered to his feet, his face bruised but filled with relief. He extended a hand to the alien woman, helping her to her feet. They didn't need words. They had shared this battle, and now they shared the victory. As they stood there, watching the retreating enemy ships disappear into the distance, the alien woman realized that her life had changed forever. She wasn't just a prisoner anymore. She wasn't just an outcast. She was a fighter, a survivor, and she had found redemption. And none of it would have been possible without the human who had shown her what it meant to truly live. They had faced the impossible and won, and in that victory, they had found something greater than freedom. They had found each other.